The bright lights of the space station hurt Captain Lisa Morgan's eyes as she walked through the long hallway. She had been to many alien places before, but Zenith Prime still felt strange to her. The walls were made of some kind of blue metal that seemed to glow from inside. Strange symbols covered every surface, written in languages she could not read. Lisa wore her best uniform today. The dark blue fabric was clean and pressed. Her boots made soft sounds on the smooth floor as she walked toward the meeting room. She carried a small bag with Earth's reports inside. Today was important. The Galactic Council would decide if humans could join their group or stay outsiders forever. The meeting room was huge. 12 different types of aliens sat around a circle table that floated in the air. Lisa had studied pictures of all these species, but seeing them in person still made her nervous. The Velthari looked like living crystals that caught the light and threw rainbows on the walls. The Mordaki were tall and thin with gray skin that looked very old. Their large black eyes never seemed to blink. Commander Zektar of the Velthari called the meeting to order. His voice sounded like music mixed with breaking glass. He spoke in the common language that all species used when they met together. Today we look at new worlds that might join our council, Zektar said. We have reports from many places in the galaxy. Lisa sat in the small section marked for observers. She was not allowed to speak unless asked a direct question. That was the rule for species that were not full members yet. Dr. Kevin Walsh sat next to her. He was Earth's best scientist who studied alien life. His hands shook a little as he held his notes. The council talked about different planets for an hour. Most were small worlds with simple life forms. Nothing very interesting. Then Zektar brought up a hologram that showed a blue and green planet. Lisa's heart beat faster. That was Earth. This world calls itself Earth, Zektar said. The species there calls themselves humans. They have asked to join our council many times over the past 10 years. An alien that looked like a giant insect clicked its mouth parts. What do they offer us? Are they strong? Do they have good technology? Kevin Walsh stood up when Zektar pointed at him. His voice was steady, but Lisa could tell he was scared. Humans have made great progress in the last 50 years, Kevin said. We have found cures for many diseases. We make clean energy from our sun and wind. Our ships can travel between stars safely. We explore space to learn, not to fight. The Akiu. Insect alien made a sound like laughing. Peaceful explorers, how boring. But Senior Counselor Thexuna of the Mordaki did not laugh. She was the oldest member of the council. Her species had been traveling space for thousands of years before humans learned to make fire. When she spoke, everyone listened. Dr. Walsh, she said in a voice like dry leaves, your people seem very nice, but we have been watching your space for some time. Our deep space stations pick up strange signals from your territory. Lisa felt her blood turn cold. Kevin's face went white. What kind of signals? Kevin asked. Thexuna waved her long, thin hand. A new hologram appeared showing wave patterns and energy readings. These match weapons we have not seen for a very long time. Weapons that were banned across the galaxy after the Great Wars ended 3,000 years ago. The room became very quiet. All the aliens stared at the humans. Lisa tried to keep her face calm, but inside she was screaming. They knew. Somehow they knew about the secret weapons. I am sure there is some mistake, Kevin said. Humans are peaceful. We do not make weapons of mass destruction. Texuna's black eyes seemed to look right through him. Perhaps. But these readings do not lie. The energy patterns are clear. Either your people are building terrible weapons, or you already have them hidden somewhere. Another alien spoke up. This one had blue fur and 6 arms. Maybe we should send ships to investigate these signals. No, said a different alien with scales like a snake. If they do have such weapons, sending ships might make them angry. We should be very careful. Lisa's communicator buzzed softly against her wrist. She looked down and saw a message that made her heart stop beating for a moment. It was in code, but she knew what it meant. Someone back on Earth was telling her that their biggest secret was in danger. The message was short. Operation Blackout is compromised. They know about the Phoenix Protocol. Prepare for emergency extraction. Lisa looked at Kevin. He was still trying to answer questions about human technology. He did not know that their whole mission was falling apart. She had to warn him, but she could not do it here with all the aliens watching. Thexuna stood up, slowly. Her old bones made creaking sounds. I think this meeting should end for today. We need time to think about what we have learned. The other council members agreed. They began to leave the room in small groups, talking quietly among themselves. Lisa heard words like dangerous and threat and investigation. Kevin walked over to Lisa. His face was confused. What just happened? Why did they ask about weapons? Earth does not have any weapons like that. Lisa grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the exit. We need to talk, but not here. Too many ears listening. They walked quickly through the station's hallways. Lisa's mind was racing. The Phoenix Protocol was supposed to be completely secret. Only a few hundred humans in the whole galaxy knew it existed. If the aliens had found out about it, then everything was going to change. The Phoenix Protocol was not just about weapons. It was about survival. It was about making sure that humans would never be destroyed by anyone, no matter how powerful they were. But if the galaxy learned the truth about what humans had been doing for the past 50 years, there would be war. Lisa and Kevin reached their small quarters on the station. Lisa locked the door and turned on a device that would stop anyone from listening to their conversation. Kevin, she said, I need to tell you something that will change everything you think you know about our people. Outside their window, the stars looked peaceful and quiet. But Lisa knew that soon, those same stars might be filled with warships from every corner of the galaxy, all of them coming to destroy the species they had learned to fear above all others, humans. 3 weeks after the meeting at Zenith Prime, Dr. Yilseth was digging in the dirt on a dead planet called Kethmori. She was a Zephyrian, which meant her people had long necks and feathers instead of hair. Yilseth loved studying old battlefields. She wanted to learn about wars that happened long ago. Kethmori had been a beautiful world once. Now it was just rocks and dust. Something terrible had happened here 50 years ago, but no one remembered what. The planet's surface was covered with strange craters that went deep into the ground. Some were so big you could fit a whole city inside them. Yilseth's team had been digging for 2 days when they found something that should not exist. It was a piece of metal, twisted and melted by great heat, but when she ran tests on it, the results made her hands shake. This cannot be right, she said to her assistant, a young Zephyrian named Colton. Run the test again. Colton looked at the readings on his scanner. The energy signature matches the database, Dr. Yilseth. This metal was damaged by a human weapon. That is impossible, Yilseth said. Humans were not even in space 50 years ago. They were still fighting each other on their home planet. But the scanner did not lie. The metal fragment had been destroyed by technology that only humans used. Yilseth had studied human weapons before. They were simple things compared to what other species made. But this fragment showed damage from something much more powerful than anything humans were supposed to have. Far away on Earth, Colonel Jake Turner walked through the underground halls of Deep Site 7. This place was so secret that most humans did not know it existed. It was built inside a mountain in a place called Colorado. The walls were thick metal that could stop any weapon from getting through. Jake was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his face from old battles. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He had seen things that would give normal people nightmares for the rest of their lives. Today he was going to brief General Patricia Mills about a problem that could destroy everything humans had worked for. General Mills was waiting in the briefing room. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her uniform was covered with medals from wars that officially never happened. "What is the situation, Colonel?" she asked. Jake turned on a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots marked places where alien investigation teams were working. There were too many red dots. "The aliens are getting suspicious," Jake said. "They found weapon fragments on 12 different worlds. All the fragments show human technology signatures." General Mills frowned. "How is that possible? We cleaned up everything after the war." "We thought we did," Jake said. "But apparently, We missed some pieces. Dr. Yilseth on Kethamori found metal that our plasma cannons melted. The Velthari found ship hull fragments on Nexus 7 that match our alloy compositions. The Mordaki discovered crater patterns on Helgoth that could only come from our Nova bombs. The general stood up and walked to the window. Outside, normal. Humans went about their daily lives. They worked and played and worried about small things like paying bills or finding love. They had no idea that their entire species was built on a lie. How much do they know? She asked. Not everything yet. But they are starting to put the pieces together. The Galactic Council has formed an investigation committee. They want to know why human energy signatures are showing up on battlefields from 50 years ago. General Mills turned back to Jake. What about the Phoenix Protocol? Are the sites still secure? For now. But if they keep investigating, they will find them eventually. We have weapons caches on over 200 worlds across the galaxy. Some of them are automatic systems that activate if Earth is threatened. If the aliens find those, the general did not need him to finish. If the galaxy learned about the Phoenix Protocol, every species would unite to destroy humanity before they could use it. In her laboratory on the research ship Far Seeker, Dr. Amanda Price was having the worst day of her life. Amanda used to work for the military, building weapons that could crack planets in half. Now she was a civilian scientist studying peaceful things like plant growth and mineral formation. She thought those days of making instruments of death were behind her. But today she learned that the past never really goes away. Amanda's computer showed her intercepted alien communications from across the galaxy. The messages were all about the same thing. Different species were sharing information about human technology they had found. They were comparing notes and asking questions that humans did not want answered. She picked up her communicator and called Captain Ryan Bell. Ryan was her old partner from the weapon development program. He now commanded a civilian transport ship, or at least that was what everyone was supposed to think. "Ryan, we have a problem," she said when he answered. "How big a problem?" Ryan's voice sounded tired. He had been expecting this call for years. "The biggest. They found fragments from Operation Cleansing Fire on 6 different worlds. The Mordaki are asking questions about the Hegemony War. Some of them remember that species existed, but they cannot find any records of what happened to them." Ryan was quiet for a long moment. The Hegemony War was the secret that could destroy everything. 50 years ago, an alien empire called the Hegemony had tried to wipe out humanity. They attacked Earth and human colonies with the goal of complete genocide. No surrender would be accepted. No mercy would be shown. What the galaxy did not know was that humans had won that war. Not just won it, but won it so completely that the Hegemony ceased to exist. Every ship, every planet, every trace of their civilization had been erased from the universe. And then humans had hidden all evidence that the war ever happened. "How much time do we have?" Ryan asked. "Maybe weeks. Maybe days." "The investigation. Teams are getting close to some of our hidden sites. Site Omega-7 is only 50 light-years from a Zephyrian dig team. If they change course even slightly—" "I understand," Ryan said. "I will contact the others. We need to activate the sleeper protocols." Amanda closed the communication link and sat in her chair. Outside the window of her ship, space looked peaceful and quiet. But she knew that soon it would be filled with warships from every corner of the galaxy. All of them coming to destroy the species they were starting to fear. The terrible truth was about to come out. Humans were not the peaceful explorers they pretended to be. They were the apex predators of the galaxy, hiding in plain sight. And once that truth was revealed, there would be no going back to the quiet life they had built on lies. The galaxy was about to remember why some species were meant to be feared. Ambassador Elena Foster stood in front of the Galactic Council feeling like a mouse surrounded by hungry cats. Every alien in the room was staring at her with suspicious eyes. She had been called here to answer questions about the weapon fragments found across the galaxy. Questions she could not answer truthfully without starting a war. Elena was a diplomat, not a soldier. She believed in solving problems with words instead of weapons, but today she was defending secrets that could destroy every living thing in the galaxy if they were misused. "Ambassador Foster," said Counselor Thexuna in her dry voice. "We have found human technology on 17 different battlefields. These are places where terrible wars happened 50 years ago. Can you explain how human weapons were used in battles that happened before your people had space travel?" Elena's mouth felt dry. She had practiced this answer many times, but it still felt like a lie. "Honorable Counselor, perhaps these fragments came from meteors or space debris. Human mining operations sometimes lose equipment in space. It could have drifted to these locations over time." The insect alien clicked its mouthparts in what Elena knew was their version of laughter. "Space debris does not melt rock into glass, Ambassador. These fragments show battle damage from weapons more powerful than most species possess today." While Elena faced hostile questions in the council chambers, Major Chris Adams was crawling through a dark tunnel on a planet called Zerion 7. This world was supposed to be empty, just an old mining planet that humans had abandoned years ago. But that was another lie. Chris led a team of 6 soldiers through the underground passages. They wore black armor that made no sound as they moved. Their faces were hidden behind helmets with night vision built in. They looked like death walking through the darkness. "Target is 50 meters ahead," whispered Sergeant Kelly Burns into her helmet radio. "No alien contacts detected yet." Chris checked his scanner. The tunnel ahead led to Storage Vault 12, one of humanity's most secret weapon caches. Inside that vault were devices that could crack planets in half or make stars explode. Weapons so terrible that using them would make the user as evil as any monster in the galaxy. "Remember," Chris said to his team, "if we cannot secure the vault, we destroy it. Nothing gets into alien hands. Nothing." They reached a massive door made of metal that did not exist in nature. Chris placed his hand on a scanner and spoke his name. The door recognized him and opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a room the size of a city block, filled with weapons that looked like they came from nightmares. Chris walked to the main console and began entering commands. Warning lights flashed red as the automated systems came online. These machines had been sleeping for 50 years, waiting for the day they might be needed again. "Vault systems are active," reported Specialist Tom Parker. "All weapons show ready status. The planet crackers are charging up." Chris nodded grimly. Planet crackers were exactly what they sounded like. One shot could split a world in half. Humans had built dozens of them during the war with the hegemony. They were tools of genocide, pure and simple. Dr. Michelle Ross was working late in her research station near the center of the galaxy when her computer started screaming warnings at her. Michelle was an expert at listening to alien communications. She could understand 12 different alien languages and could break most of their secret codes. Tonight, the codes were telling her something that made her blood turn to ice. "Oh no," she whispered as she read the messages flowing across her screen. "They are forming an alliance. The Velthari were talking to the Mordaki. The Zephyrians were coordinating with the insect species called the Klackton. Even species that had been enemies for thousands of years were working together now. They all had the same goal: find out what humans were hiding and stop them before it was too late." Michelle picked up her emergency communicator and called Earth. The signal would take hours to reach home, but this could not wait. "Emergency Protocol 7, she said into the device. "Multiple species forming coalition against humanity. Recommend immediate activation of defensive measures." Back on Zerion 7, Chris heard the warning signal through his helmet radio. And the alien fleet was approaching the planet. They had maybe an hour before the ships arrived. "How much time do we need to evacuate the weapons?" asked Sergeant Burns. Chris looked at the massive devices around them. Some were the size of buildings. Others were so complex they required teams of scientists to operate. There was no way to move them in time. "We are not evacuating," Chris said. "We are activating." He walked to a control panel marked with symbols. That meant final option in the old human military code. His finger hovered over a red button that would change everything. Once he pressed it, there would be no more hiding. The galaxy would know exactly what humans were capable of. "Sir," said Tom Parker nervously, "are you sure about this? Once we activate the defensive grid, every alien in the galaxy will know we have been lying to them." Chris thought about his daughter back on Earth. She was only 10 years old. She liked to draw pictures of flowers and asked him to bring her presents from different planets. If he did not press this button, she might not live to see her next birthday. "The time for hiding is over," Chris said. "Let them see what we really are." He pressed the button. Across the galaxy, on 200 different worlds, similar buttons were being pressed. Ancient machines that had been sleeping for 50 years suddenly woke up. Weapons platforms that looked like asteroids began moving toward strategic positions. Hidden bases that appeared to be empty revealed their true nature as fortress worlds, bristling with enough firepower to sterilize star systems. Captain Daniel Wright received the activation signal on his exploration ship New Horizon. Like every human ship captain, he had sealed orders to open only in the greatest emergency. Today was that day. Inside the sealed envelope were new mission parameters. His ship was no longer an exploration vessel. It was now the command ship for Battle Group 7. The cargo holds that supposedly carried scientific equipment were actually filled with weapons and soldiers. "Attention, crew," Daniel announced over the ship's communication system. "We are no longer explorers. We are now at HFY." The human colonies across the galaxy began to transform. Farming worlds revealed hidden weapons factories. Research stations turned out to be military command centers. Even civilian transports opened hidden compartments containing enough firepower to destroy battleships. Elena Foster was still trying to answer questions when the first reports came in. Alien monitoring stations detected massive energy signatures from human space. Signals that showed humanity possessed technology far beyond what anyone had imagined. Counselor Thexuna stood up slowly, her ancient bones creaking. "Ambassador Foster," she said in a voice like winter wind, "it appears your people have been less than honest with us." Elena looked at the faces around her. Fear, anger, and something else. Something that might have been respect, mixed with terror. "The masquerade is over," Elena said quietly. "You wanted to know what humans are hiding. Now you are about to find out." Outside the station windows, space itself seemed to be changing. Ships that had never been seen before were moving into position. Weapons that violated the laws of physics were powering up. The galaxy was about to remember why some species were meant to be feared above all others. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was very, very angry. Admiral Tracy Johnson stood on the bridge of the warship Thunderstrike and watched as her fleet came out of hiding. For 50 years, these ships had been disguised as cargo haulers and research vessels. Now they showed their true form, and even Tracy felt a chill when she saw what humanity had built in secret. The Thunderstrike was 3 miles long and covered with weapons that could destroy moons. Its armor was made from metal that could survive the heart of a star. When it moved through space, reality itself seemed to bend around it. This was what humans built when they were afraid for their lives. "Admiral," said Captain Bob Mitchell, from the communication station, "we are receiving surrender requests from 12 alien fleets. They want to negotiate." Tracy shook her head. "Tell them negotiations ended when they formed a coalition to destroy us. Today they learn why that was a mistake." The truth about the Hegemony War was finally being told. Professor Gary Mitchell sat in a recording studio on Earth, speaking into cameras that would broadcast his words across the galaxy. Gary was old now, with white hair and hands that shook when he was nervous. But his memory of 50 years ago was crystal clear. "The Hegemony came to our system with 1,000 ships," Gary said into the camera. "They did not want to conquer us. They wanted to kill every human being in the galaxy. Men, women, children, everyone." Gary paused and took a drink of water. Even after all these years, talking about the war made him feel sick. "They attacked our colonies first. New Boston, Freedom Station, Hope's Landing, places where families lived and children played. The Hegemony burned them all. 3 million humans died in the first week." On alien worlds across the galaxy, beings who thought they knew about war watched Gary's testimony with growing horror. They had never seen genocide on such a scale. Most species fought for territory or resources. The Hegemony had fought to erase humanity from existence. "We tried to surrender. Gary continued. We offered them everything we had. Our technology, our worlds, our service as slaves. They laughed at us. The hegemony commander said that humans were a disease that needed to be cured. The only cure was death. Captain Nicole Brooks commanded Strike Group Alpha as it moved toward the first alien coalition fleet. Her ships looked small compared to the massive alien vessels, but looks could be deceiving. Human ships were built for one purpose: killing enemies as efficiently as possible. The alien fleet commander, a Velthari named Sector, sent a message demanding that Nicole surrender. She laughed when she heard it. Tell Commander Sector that humans do not surrender, Nicole said. We win or we die. There is no middle ground. The battle began when the aliens fired their plasma cannons. Bright beams of energy struck Nicole's ships, but the human shields absorbed the attacks easily. The aliens had been building weapons for defense and exploration. Humans had been building weapons for war. Nicole's response was swift and terrible. Her ships fired missiles that moved faster than light itself. The alien fleet's shields collapsed like paper in a fire. 3 alien battleships exploded in the first 10 seconds of combat. Dr. Stephen Clark watched the battle from his command center deep inside Earth's moon. Stephen was a psychologist who studied alien minds. For 50 years he had been learning how different species thought, how they fought, and most importantly, how they could be defeated. The Velthari will retreat after losing 30% of their ships, Stephen told his assistants. Their culture considers that level of loss unacceptable. The insect species will fight longer, but they panic when their queen ships are threatened. Stephen had files on every known alien species. He knew their fears, their weaknesses, their breaking points. While other species studied humans to understand them, humans had been studying aliens to destroy them. Captain Rachel Stone led the boarding party that captured the coalition command ship Eternal Glory. Rachel was small and looked harmless, but she had been trained in 50 different ways to kill with her bare hands. Her team moved through the alien ship like ghosts of death. The alien crew had never seen anything like human close combat tactics. Other species fought with honor and rules. Humans fought to win by any means necessary. Rachel's team used weapons, explosives, and when those ran out, they used their hands and teeth. Within an hour, Rachel stood on the bridge of the Eternal Glory with the alien commanders kneeling before her. Their eyes were wide with terror as they stared at the small human female who had destroyed their entire security force. You want to know what makes humans dangerous? Rachel asked the alien commander. It is not our weapons or our ships. It is that we never stop fighting. Ever. The alien commander, a proud Mordaki warrior, began to cry. In his long life, he had fought many battles and faced many dangers, but he had never encountered anything like human warfare. It was not just combat, it was controlled madness. Professor Gary Mitchell continued his testimony, reaching the part that would change how the galaxy saw humanity forever. The war lasted 6 months, Gary said. At the end, there were no hegemony ships left, no hegemony worlds, no hegemony people. We did not just defeat them, we erased them from the universe so completely that most species forgot they ever existed. On alien worlds, beings who had thought humans were peaceful traders sat in stunned silence. They began to understand that they were not dealing with just another species. They were dealing with apex predators who had been pretending to be prey. But that was not enough for us, Gary continued. We decided that no species would ever threaten humanity again. So we built weapons and hid them across the galaxy. Planet killers, star destroyers, devices that could end all life in the galaxy if we chose to use them. The final revelation came when Admiral Tracy Johnson activated humanity's ultimate weapon. Deep space monitoring stations across the galaxy detected energy signatures from human territory that defied all known physics. Humans had not just hidden weapons, they had hidden the power to destroy star systems. This is the Supernova Protocol, Tracy announced on all galactic communication channels. We have devices placed in orbit around 300 stars across the galaxy, stars that provide light and heat to alien worlds. If any species threatens Earth or human colonies, we will trigger these devices and turn their suns into bombs. the Yoi. Implications were staggering. Humans had spent 50 years secretly placing weapons in star systems throughout the galaxy. They could destroy entire civilizations with the push of a button. And the most terrifying part was that no one had ever suspected. On the bridge of the Thunderstrike, Tracy looked at the tactical display showing alien fleets throughout the galaxy. Most were retreating. Some were sending surrender messages, a few were still trying to fight. "Admiral," said Captain Mitchell, "the Galactic Council is requesting an immediate ceasefire. They want to negotiate." Tracy smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "Tell them we will negotiate, but the terms are simple. They leave human space alone or we start lighting up stars. Their choice." For the first time in galactic history, every major species was afraid of the same thing. Not a natural disaster or cosmic event, but another intelligent species. The galaxy had learned why some creatures were meant to be feared above all others. Humans were not just warriors. They were survivors who would do anything to protect their own, and now everyone knew it. 6 months after the war ended, Ambassador Carl Thompson walked into the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers. The room looked the same as before, but everything had changed. The alien counselors who used to ignore humans now watched Carl's every move with careful respect mixed with fear. Carl was different from the other human diplomats. He was big and strong like a soldier, but he spoke softly like a teacher. His job was to help the galaxy understand that humans wanted peace, not conquest. But everyone knew that peace would come on human terms. "Honored counselors," Carl said, as he took his seat at the table, "we are here today to talk about the future, a future where all species can live safely together." Counselor Thexuna looked older than before. The war had aged her badly. Her black eyes were tired and sad. "Ambassador Thompson, your people have shown us terrible things. How can we trust that you will not use your weapons against us?" Carl nodded. He had expected this question. "Because we do not want to rule you. We never did. All we wanted was to make sure no one could destroy us like the hegemony tried to do." On a space station orbiting Earth, General Karen White was overseeing the most important project in human history. She was taking apart some of the deadliest weapons ever built, not all of them, but enough to show good faith to the galaxy. "General," said Colonel Jake Turner, "the alien observers are here to witness the destruction of Planet Cracker 7. Karen looked through the observation window at the massive weapon. It was beautiful in a terrible way, like a metal flower that could bloom into death for entire worlds. Today it would be destroyed, to prove that humans could show mercy. "Begin the process," Karen ordered. The alien observers watched in silence as humans destroyed their own weapon. A device that could split planets in half was turned into harmless scrap metal. But everyone knew that humans still had dozens of other planet crackers hidden across the galaxy. Dr. Tony Rivera was working in his new laboratory with alien scientists for the first time. Tony studied how to defend against threats from outside the galaxy. His research partners included a Velthari crystal being named Teclon and a Zephyrian feathered female called Ysara. "Dr. Rivera," said Teclon in his musical voice, "these energy readings from beyond our galaxy are getting stronger. Something is coming toward us." Tony looked at the data on his screen. For months, deep space sensors had been detecting signals from the empty space between galaxies. The signals suggested that something big was heading toward their part of the universe, something that did not belong to any known species. "How long until it arrives?" Tony asked. Ysara ruffled her feathers, nervously. "Maybe 2 years, maybe less. We cannot tell how fast it is moving." Tony thought about this problem. In the old days, each species would have tried to face this threat alone. Most would have failed, but now they had something new. They had humans willing to fight for everyone. Commander Helen Davis stood in the briefing room of the New Human Space Command headquarters. The room was full of officers from every species in the galaxy: Velthari, Mordaki, Zephyrians, and dozens of others, all of them wearing the same uniform and working toward the same goal. "Ladies and gentlemen," Helen said, "today we officially form the Galactic Defense Force. Our mission is to protect all civilized worlds from external threats. A young Mordaki officer raised his hand. Commander Davis, why should humans lead this force? Why not share command equally? Helen smiled. It was a fair question. Because when something terrible comes to kill your family, you want the most dangerous predator on your side. That happens to be us. The alien officers looked uncomfortable, but they could not argue with the logic. Humans had proven they were the best at war. If war was coming, you wanted humans to lead it. Captain Peter Shaw received the emergency signal while his ship was patrolling the outer rim of the galaxy. The message was short but terrifying. Unknown vessels detected entering galaxy, size, and number unknown. All units respond immediately. Peter's ship Guardian was one of the new mixed crew vessels. Half his crew was human and half was made up of aliens from different species. At first it had been awkward, but now they worked together like a family. Captain, said his Velthari navigation officer, sensors are detecting massive objects at the galaxy's edge. They are bigger than anything we have ever seen. Peter looked at the readings and felt his blood turn cold. The objects were the size of moons, but they moved like ships. Hundreds of them were entering the galaxy from empty space. Whatever they were, they had traveled between galaxies to get here. Send a message to Earth, Peter ordered. Tell them the external threat has arrived. Request immediate backup. Within hours, human fleets that had been hidden for decades began, moving toward the galaxy's edge. But for the first time, they were not alone. Ships from every major species joined them. The galaxy was finally united against a common enemy. At the Joint Defense Academy on the planet New Geneva, young humans and aliens trained together. Lieutenant Sarah Adams, a human, practiced combat maneuvers with her partner, a Zephyrian named Colvim. 6 months ago, their species had been enemies. Now they trusted each other with their lives. Sarah, said Colvim, do you think we can defeat whatever is coming? Sarah checked her weapon and looked at her alien friend. I think we have something those invaders have never seen before. We have humans fighting for something bigger than just humanity. The first battle with the unknown. Invaders happened 3 days later. Captain Peter Shaw's ship was part of the advanced scout force that made contact. The enemy ships were unlike anything in the galaxy's databases. They were organic, like they had been grown instead of built. When the battle began, Peter saw something that amazed him. His mixed crew fought together perfectly. Humans provided the aggressive tactics and firepower. Aliens provided technical expertise and strategic thinking. Together they were stronger than either could be alone. Captain, said his human weapons officer, enemy ship is disabled. Should we destroy it? Peter thought for a moment. The old human way would be to destroy everything that threatened them. But this was a new time. No, Peter said. Capture it. We need to learn about these invaders. And maybe they can learn about us. The galaxy watched as the first prisoner was taken from the organic ships. It was a creature unlike anything they had seen before. But instead of killing it, the combined human-alien crew tried to communicate with it. Ambassador Carl Thompson was called to Earth for an emergency meeting. When he arrived, he found the leaders of every major species waiting for him. For the first time in galactic history, they were all working together. Ambassador, said Counselor Thexuna, we have a proposal. We want to make the human-led defense force permanent. We want you to be the galaxy's protectors. Carl looked around the room at faces that had once been filled with fear and hatred. Now they showed trust and hope. It was not the future anyone had expected, but it was the future they needed. We accept, Carl said. But remember, we protect everyone or we protect no one. That is the human way. Years later, when the threat from outside the galaxy was finally defeated, children of all species would learn about the time when humans stopped pretending to be weak. They would learn that sometimes the most feared species becomes the most trusted protector. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Fear and respect were not the same thing. But sometimes, they could become something better. They could become the foundation for a peace that would last forever. Humans remained the galaxy's most feared species, but now they were also its most valued guardians.